Hello, everybody. You're listening to Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio Clutch with Keon Rose. And, Texas A&M is an interesting football team. They're an interesting football team. And if you are a Vols fan, what makes them interesting also makes them dangerous. And dangerous to you specifically because of how your team plays. It's important information. I've got some for you. Also, want to talk about the Mocs. They are about to have one of the best starts in team history. They're 2 wins away from the best start in team history. They play Mercer this weekend. And I want to break down a little bit of why it is that the Mocs are as good as they are. And if you had to choose between watching the Vols and the Mocs, who would you choose to watch? My answer might surprise you. It might not, but it might. And Leonard Fournette, he's not going to be able to play against Florida. He hasn't practiced. Ed Orgeron has said he's not playing. And I feel like the conversation that we had about Leonard Fournette last year and whether or not Leonard Fournette should have just turned pro or if Leonard Fournette came back to play college football this season, if he should just have sat out, I feel like we're missing a lot of that conversation this year, probably because we do not care, because we just did not see enough from LSU early on, but nothing has changed about how wrong that situation is and how messed up the NC2A and their entire system of college football that allows them to make money off of players who have no control over basically their lives continues to be. But we'll get into all of those things and a little bit more. This is Clutch with Keon Rose, and make sure to check us out on the internet and the World Wide Web. Both of those things. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. I recommend those places to start. Search Hot News Talk Radio. We're the first thing that comes up. We're your leader in traffic, news, weather, and sports. And if you want to see what our show looks like, if you want to see what our studio looks like, make sure to tune into all of our local programs. Binary with Russell Stroud, David Tulis Show, and Clutch with Keon Rose. And we stream all of our local programming live on YouTube. All of it. Every single one of it. Isn't that amazing? We also stream on Facebook, not just the local shows, all the shows. You can check us out at our website, noogaradio.com. And, of course, we shouldn't forget to mention the TuneIn Radio app. Again, that's the TuneIn Radio app. Free in your favorite app store. Simply search Hot News Talk Radio in the app. Give us a favorite and press play, and you'll have Hot News Talk Radio everywhere you go. So I wanted to talk about Texas A&M because what I find interesting about A&M is their playing style. Their playing style. Texas A&M is a running team. And I don't know if you've noticed, because it was one of those things that happened quietly. Even if you're watching Texas A&M, you don't notice that they run that much. At least I don't. It seems like they're lining up, they're spreading you out. It doesn't feel like they're running all that much. And it could be that I'm no Greg Cassell, right? But it could be that Texas A&M has one secret weapon that has completely changed the entire look of their offense this season. And maybe it's not a secret weapon. Maybe it's just a weapon. Who would you have thought at the beginning of this season had the best rushing attack coming into the season? My best guess would have been Georgia, to be honest with you. Nick Chubb, Sony Michel, I know they started the season injured, but those two guys come in healthy. And to me, that's the best rushing attack in the SEC. But if you had chosen Tennessee, Jalen Hurd and Alvin Kamara, Alabama with Bo Scarborough and Damian Harris, and whoever else is deep inside of Nick Saban's bag of tricks, I don't think you would have been wrong there. And Arkansas and Raleigh Williams, the third. And just the fact that Arkansas is a running back factory. And all they do is produce running backs. Like, just if you go into their locker room, it's actually just a factory. It's just a bunch of small children painting on the jerseys of just random football players so that they can just churn out more running backs. That's all that they do at Arkansas. And they're in line to be the first team to take a crack at beating Alabama this season. And that game's not going to be as ridiculous as you think it's going to be. But we'll get into that a little bit later. But who would you have thought is the best? The LSU, Leonard Fournette, Darius Geis obviously showing off the running ability that he had in the absence of Fournette. And if you had chosen any of those teams to this point in the season, you would have been wrong. You would have been wrong for choosing Bama, Georgia, Tennessee, Arkansas, LSU. Going into last week's game against South Carolina, the number one rushing team in the SEC, Texas A&M? Kind of ridiculous. At least for me, not something that I saw coming. They're now second place because Auburn got to play Louisiana Monroe. And Louisiana Monroe's defense and rack up a ton of rushing yards. So they're number one now. But being number two and averaging 258.6 yards a game on the ground, that's some good territory to be in if you're Texas A&M. The Texas A&M, who has 15 rushing touchdowns this season, which beats the total number of rushing touchdowns that they had last season. They had only 13 the whole season. So what happened? How is it that Texas A&M can run now? Well, there is one reason. There's a reason why they're able to make the big plays on the ground, the reason why they pick up first downs, the reason why they're able to punch it into the red zone, and it's Trevor Knight, the quarterback. The Trevor Knight has got a strong arm, and I think that if you pay attention to just that, you actually overlook the real ability of Trevor Knight, which is that Trevor Knight has got some wheels. Trevor Knight really knows how to scoot. That man can scramble. He's the key. He makes this entire offense able to run because Trevor Knight has done something that Kevin Sumlin usually likes his quarterbacks to be able to do. And he hasn't been able to get guys to do this since Manziel. When you can't find a play downfield, make a play with your legs. When you can't find something downfield, make a play with your legs. And what Trevor Knight does better than any other Kevin Sumlin quarterback, including Johnny Manziel, is picking up huge yardage with his legs, picking up first downs with his legs. Johnny Manziel would run around, do his Johnny football thing, and then throw it. Trevor Knight's trying to run for a first. And it's much, much more reliable, but it does something else. It opens up running lanes for those running backs. It gives them a little space. Travion Williams and James White benefit from the space provided by Trevor Knight and his ability to run because now you can't key in on just any one guy. Furthermore, Trevor Knight can kill you on designed runs. Trevor Knight can kill you in the read option. And that kind of stuff is incredibly difficult to defend, especially against Texas A&M, who spreads you and your defense out. And if Texas A&M gets a lead, look out. They keep it. Kevin Sumlin's not afraid to run the football late in games. They run the clock out on you. They pick up first downs. They have a variety of ways to pick up yards on the ground, which is something that Kevin Sumlin never had before. He has not had an offense this complete in his entire time at Texas A&M. Trevor Knight is the one guy making a difference. And every organization needs that one guy. I mean, I understand football is a team sport, but even teams have one person that they rely on to get things done. Think Steve Jobs and Apple and Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement. I mean, it's a group effort, but one guy can help make something click. Phil Jackson and any team that he's ever coached. Phil Jackson coached the Bulls, and everyone talks about how it's so easy to win championships when you've got Michael Jordan. But Michael Jordan didn't win any championships without Phil. Didn't win until Phil got there. Didn't win any in his playing time after Phil. The only championships that Kobe Bryant has are with Phil Jackson. Some guys can bring out the best in everybody else just because of their skill set. Stan Lee and Marvel. Now, I know some nerds are going to probably come after me on that one. But again, one guy bringing out the best in everybody because of his skill set. Is it still a team effort? Of course it is. But Trevor Knight and his skill set gives the Aggies the ability to do things that they weren't able to do before he got there. Let me give you an example. Here's an example. Charlie Chaplin and Disney. Charlie Chaplin is very responsible for being a guy that made the Walt Disney Company what it is today. The same Walt Disney that owns ESPN and Marvel. A lot of the media that you consume wouldn't be happening without Charlie Chaplin. Long time ago, Disney left Columbia, the company that they were with, for United Artists, which was co-founded by Charlie Chaplin. And they wanted to make a feature-length animated movie. Up until that point, they had just been making short movies, short films. People liked them, but nobody was interested in Disney beyond that. And I don't think that really people believed that a feature-length animated movie could work. And they were looking for the green light to get Snow White done. And they couldn't do it. So they had to leave United Artists. And they left United Artists for a company called RKO. Charlie Chaplin was cool with Disney leaving. He was cool with them leaving, and he promised to lend his help to them even after they left. And he backed up his talk. He helped them negotiate everything that they needed to negotiate to get their film off the ground, and negotiated in such a way that they were able to have international showings of the movie and be able to hold on to most of the money that the film made. So, fast forward a little bit, Snow White, a huge success for Disney. They get to pocket all of that money. They use it to turn around and make Pinocchio and Fantasia, and the rest is history. Disney takes off, and they wouldn't have been able to do it without Charlie Chaplin. One guy making a difference for one organization. Trevor Knight is the Steve Jobs of Texas A&M right now. You take him off that football team, and you don't have a team that runs this well. It's because they've got Trevor Knight on the field. And the point is this: if you're Tennessee, if you're the Vols, you need to stick around in this game. You can't fall behind 21-3 going into the half. You can't be down 17-0. Because Texas A&M is going to run the ball down your throat. And they will run it, and they will pick up first downs, and they're going to pick up appearances in the red zone, and they're going to score touchdowns, lots of them. And all the while, they'll be running out the clock. And by the way, I don't know if you've noticed Tennessee's run defense. It ain't great. Tennessee's not exactly stopping you against the run. And you're going up against the second best rushing team in the conference. Probably should be the best, but, it's Auburn. Going up against the best rushing attack in the conference. And make no mistake. If you fall behind, you ain't winning nothing. That's just plain and simple. If you fall behind in this one, it's going to be good night. You're not going to get that comeback. I mean, the reason why I said you could do it against Georgia is simple. True freshman quarterback. No Nick Chubb. I mean, that's about it. You don't have Nick Chubb. Georgia is really struggling running the football. And it's not just the Chubb stuff, because even when they've got Nick Chubb, they can't really seem to run it. You're able to come back against a team like that. And nobody really knew how consistent Austin Appleby could be with Florida. And Florida's not doing a great job running the ball either. And Georgia and Florida are both bottom half of the league in rushing. I mean, they're not great running teams. You're beating good teams. You're beating the teams you're supposed to beat. You're beating SEC East rivals. And all of that is fine and dandy. This ain't the East anymore. This is the West. And they run over there. And if you fall behind, you lose. I mean, this is not Texas A&M of old, where you could get into a shootout with Texas A&M and then try and win it. Because I'm purely of the mindset Tennessee is actually built to win a shootout. When they get desperate, when you put Butch Jones in a corner and make him coach his way out, well, would you believe the guy is actually good enough to coach his way out? Yeah, Butch Jones coaches his way out of corners. I think he finds himself in too many corners because he's too conservative early in games. You force Butch Jones' hand, Tennessee's going to put up numbers. They can win a shootout. Texas A&M, they're not trying to win shootouts anymore. I don't know if you saw what happened last week with South Carolina. I thought Texas A&M would have put South Carolina to sleep. They beat them, but they didn't put them to sleep. Like, South Carolina is a team that if you are trying to be a college football playoff caliber team, you ought to romp on South Carolina. They're not good. Period. They're not good. A&M didn't romp on them. But A&M got that lead, though, and never looked back. If you let the Aggies get up on you early and get up on you big, this is an absolute fact. They will beat you. And it's going to be ugly. Is there room for the Aggies to improve? Absolutely. They don't convert but about 84% of their red zone appearances. And if you're the kind of team that's showing up in the red zone as often as they are, I think you can do better than that. But that being said, you're a Tennessee fan. That's the thing that you'd have to worry about with this. This is not something that you can flip every week. Okay, it's not a faucet. You can't turn it on and off whenever you feel like it. Especially against the team that runs the football. And your run defense, you're awful. I mean, you've seen it. It's not good to watch. It's bad. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. I'm not saying, look, I think the Vols have every bit of shot to beat A&M as you'd think. They're very offensively explosive. And I don't think that they've gotten the opportunities to consistently display that. But I think a lot of people are consoling themselves with the fact that, yeah, Tennessee's a second half team. You fall behind in this game, there is no second half for you to catch up in. You might come back and make it look close, but you're not winning. You need to be in this one to win this one early. Keep it close. Force them to throw the ball. And Trevor Knight's not a slouch throwing the ball, but I like Tennessee's chances of winning a whole lot better when you ask them to defend the pass rather than to defend the run. You're listening to Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. We're going to talk about UTC. This could be the best UTC team ever, and I'm not exaggerating. Also, Leonard Fournette, did he get shafted by the NCAA? The short answer is yes, but I think there's a little bit more complexity to all of that than you might think. Clutch with Keon Rose, next.
Hot News Talk 1240
AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, with your chance to win $124 in cash and $124 in food every week with the Hot News Talk Radio 1, 2, 3 NASCAR contest.
Hot News Talk 1240.
All you have to do is guess who's going to be first, second, and third place in the upcoming NASCAR Sprint Cup race. If you guess it, you'll hear your name live Monday morning at 11:30. Then call AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio to win. Enter your guess right now at Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds, 5301 Brainerd Road, Chattanooga. Diesel Off-Road Technology Saudi Daisy for your four-wheel drive and truck needs. Stuff and upholstery with premium rubber foam. Amigos Mexican Restaurant next to Staples and Hickson. Drink specials during the race. Cell Surgeon, the Broken Screen Doc. And Shooter's Supply, 4824 Hickson Pike in Hickson.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Enter your guesses now and listen to the race live to win $124 in cash and $124 in food from Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
Hot News Talk 1240.
I love NASCAR. You want more business. You want to increase your bottom line. You want to spend less on advertising, imaging your business, and general expenses. You need Trade Bank. Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Trade Bank. Call now to get access to nearly 400 local businesses. Trade Bank. Call 877-2202. 877-2202. Trade Bank. You want to increase your cash flow, your competitive edge, attract new customers, and build a loyal customer base. You need Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Call right now. 877-2202. When you join Trade Bank, you'll get the benefit of free advertising in our monthly magazine, tradebank.com, emails, and mailouts. Join Trade Bank now and receive your Trade Bank debit card with trade credits to spend any way you want with our wide variety of Trade Bank partners. For almost 30 years, Trade Bank has been your voice for small business, a member of the American Bankers Association, and in good standing with you. Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Call now for a free consultation, 877-2202. That's 877-2202. Trade Bank of Chattanooga.
This is Mike at For the Record at Northgate Mall. We're the largest complete record store in town. We sell old and new vinyl records, celebrity posters, music posters, and we are the largest in town. Come see us.
Expect mostly clear skies to continue through the nighttime. Comfortable overnight. May see a little late fog, lows upper 50s. For Thursday, another warm, dry day. Lots of sunshine, highs near 85. Continued warm Friday. Still dry, but turning breezy and cooler for the weekend. The workday is unpredictable. Are you ready? Let Centas help you get there. Centas is your source for match uniforms, cleaning programs, and more. Get started at Centas.com. Centas, ready for the workday. And I'm 1412 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Core.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your Hot News Now update. A normal drive on 75 almost turned deadly when an angry driver opened fire on someone he cut off. Police say 69-year-old Arthur Cross cut off Mr. Runyon, who was driving down 75, and then brake-checked him. When Mr. Runyon gave an expression of "what are you doing" with his hands, Cross pulled up beside him, according to police, and opened fire, shattering his windows. He only stopped when his gun jammed. Mr. Runyon now claims to have PTSD from the incident. Mr. Cross is out on bond right now, but he's due back in court next month. Here's a Hot News Talk Radio election update. District 2 City Councilman Jerry Mitchell is now the 5th sitting council member to pick up papers for the March 7th city election. Also running for mayor right now, Larry Groen and Chris Long, who are running against incumbent Mayor Andy Burke. The Hamilton County Sheriff's Office earlier put out warnings for a missing man who had Alzheimer's. Well, now he's been found at his home. Kenneth Lindsay has been found safe at his home. He apparently got lost on his way back from paying a bill to the cable company. It was going on in the Tennessee Valley. It's going on Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
Truex Jr. is off the pace and he is headed to the pit lane. Elliott Cowherd around the outside. Michael it down, pops the right front tire. Here's Martin Truex to the bottom. Blaney blocks him off too. Meanwhile, Chase Elliott went 4 wide on the back straightaway. They're side by side for the lead.
Hear it live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
Hot News Talk 1240.
The voice of NASCAR.
I've got a fantasy football show coming up for you guys. Fantasy football. A game that I am very, very good at giving advice for. Now, previously, I was the fantasy football bridesmaid, so I can at least get you to a championship game. Like, for the last 6 years that I've played fantasy football, I've got to the championship game where I've been beaten horribly. So I don't know how to end things. But this time, I'm hoping that this is actually the reverse true, because I am the proud owner of the Winterfell Direwolves, a horrible fantasy football team. I think the players on it are good. Consistent thing that's ever happened. Just absolutely horrid. Oh, look who's joined me to gloat.
Hey, I would just like Winterfell Direwolves is probably the greatest sport of all time.
It's just a bunch of great players on it.
Keon is great. I'm voting. This is my first ever, and I would like to tell that basically my team destroyed your team completely. And in fact, well, I don't know. You need to look it up. Just so that way we.
I mean, I don't have to. Here's the thing. Did I even clear 50 points? Like, if you know that I didn't clear 50, you know I got whooped. It was like 145 to 50 something or 45 something. Yeah, no, it was
I really just wanted to hop on and let you know that so much greater.
Yeah, I think we got an issue here with this extra mic. So
can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay. Yes.
We can't see you now. Unfortunately, we left the ugly one in front of the webcam, but we can hear you now.
You're not ugly. You just have a Facebook.
Exactly.
Again, I just wanted to gloat by letting you know that I completely destroyed Keon with my fantasy football team. It was like I really stopped counting after it was like a 60-point difference because.
No, the ESPN app crashed on week 1 of the NFL season. It couldn't crash. It couldn't crash last week.
Yeah.
It couldn't crash on Sunday for me.
Yeah.
It couldn't do that for me. Help me out.
You just sound miserable.
Cover up my sins.
You sound miserable. You should be ashamed.
Who helped you build your fantasy football team? Who is the architect behind your fantasy football team?
He was about to go sacrilegious with that, but you know.
Okay. Well, don't do that. Don't do that. We're not. Because we love Jesus here.
Fair enough, Keon. You did help me with my team.
See, which is my point. My point is you should listen to my fantasy football show, not because my team is good, but because I give great advice to everyone, but me.
But himself.
So
he overthinks his own team. I think, though.
I'm not thinking next week. Everybody that's starting is starting.
Maybe I should do your team.
I'm not changing anything next week.
That's what we should do. I should pick your team. You should advise me on what to pick for me, for you.
I don't know if it's. I think I might still overdo it.
You're not going to win my team because my team's just fantastic.
Okay.
A little bit of help and a lot of genius.
I'm just saying, Alan Hearns was a steal, and I got him for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Nobody out here was looking for Alan Hearns.
I just had to tell you.
Now I do feel a little bit bad because I didn't advise you to start Blake Bortles last week, and that
it was like 25 points on my bench.
Right.
Cam did okay. I have Cam Newton on my starting roster. He did all right, but wasn't the best game.
It wasn't the best Cam that we've ever seen. Obviously,
but Bortles did well.
Blake Bortles can really play, and I feel like he doesn't get enough credit because he's in Jacksonville. But Blake Bortles is really good.
Clearly, 25 points.
25 points, and you left him on your bench.
I did. My bench was hot.
Blake Bortles, who's 27 years old, but he looks like he's 40.
But
that he can still play.
As I hop out, I would just like to say my hot bench is still better than your roster. Thank you.
I don't know about that because all of my points stay on my bench. That's my problem. Whoever I put on my bench plays well. So I'm done. Next week, I'm benching Matt Stafford and I'm starting Aaron Rodgers because Rodgers is on a bye, and I'm leaving everybody else the same. It's just going to be what it is. It's just going to be what it is. I'm done. I'm done with the shifting and the manipulating and tweaking, and you're waking up at 11:45 at night to tinker with the team some more. I'm done. The team is what the team is at this point. I'm a Redskins fan, so I end up, leaving Deshaun Jackson in my lineup, and he keeps giving me the shaft every time he plays. But whatever. Kirk Cousins, throw the ball to Deshaun Jackson more. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose, but I'm done talking about my fantasy football team because it's like talking about your pets or your kids. You like your pets. You like your kids. Other people don't like your kids and your pets as much as you do. There's just people don't care about your fantasy football team as much as you do, which is the whole point of the fantasy football show. I'm the one guy that wants to talk about your fantasy football team. Think about that. I want to actually talk about your team. Start 'em or sit 'em. It's the name of the show. So there you go. Tune in on Sundays for Start 'em or sit 'em, and we will help you clear a path to fantasy football victory, the likes of which you have never seen before. Now, I want to talk about UTC because I was thinking about it. Which team would you rather watch on a Saturday? UTC, the Mocs, or Tennessee, the Vols? Who would you rather watch? And I understand that there's a level of insult that comes with that question. If you are a Vols fan, you just bleed orange, or you're a Georgia fan, or whomever. Why would you want to watch the Mocs over your team? The question being, A, who is actually better for you to watch? The answer is actually the Mocs. First off, the Mocs are better for your health to watch. Because if I were a Tennessee fan, would just have keeled over and died already. Too many heart attack games. Appy State, heart attack. Ohio, heart attack. Florida, heart attack. Georgia, the biggest heart attack of the season yet. You're the cardiac Vols. You're the cardiac Vols. You people produce more heart attacks than fried food. You produce more heart problems than diabetes. I mean, I couldn't watch that team every single week. I told you, I like to know. I like to know going into the third, fourth quarter, like, okay, do we have this or is this over? And if you're watching the Mocs, you got it. The Mocs are 5-0. They play Mercer this coming weekend for an opportunity to be 6-0 for the first time since 1968. So it's been 48 years since the Mocs were last 6-0. And Coach Russ Huesman has insisted, and he said it at the media luncheon on Tuesday. He's insisted this is not a trap game for the Mocs. He's got a lot of respect for Mercer. They're one of the better teams in the Southern Conference. If you think this is a trap game, you don't know what you're talking about. More or less what Coach said. And I agree with Coach Huesman, but not for the same reasons, right? Because Mercer's 2-2. UTC ought to beat Mercer, just as a fact. Maybe not beat them down, but you got to beat Mercer. But he's a coach. He said what coaches are supposed to say. Coaches give you the rote, boring answer. They don't make promises that they can't keep. Guaranteeing stuff and then losing is not a good way to be. Okay? You can ask Will Muschamp all about that. Guarantee stuff and lose, you'll be out of town. Lane Kiffin, Will Muschamp, they know what I'm talking about. Russ Huesman is not guaranteeing a victory over Mercer because he doesn't have to guarantee a victory over Mercer. Just go out there and beat Mercer. The reason, though, I think the Mocs are going to beat Mercer and why this is not a trap game for them, my personal reason, the Mocs don't have any shake to them. And I'm not talking about the kind of shake that a running back has where he's got that little bit of wiggle, that hesitation, and he seems to always be breaking people's ankles. Like Le'Veon Bell's got that wiggle. LaShawn McCoy, back when he was good, had that shake, that hesitation. Leave you in your dust. Leave you in the dust. I mean, just absolutely make people look bad. That's not the kind of shake I'm talking about, though. I'm talking about that shake that scared people have. I'm talking about the bad kind of shake. The shake that cowards have. And you know people that got a little bit of shake to them. Right? People with a little bit of shake to them, they'll sell you out. They will sell you up the river. If they could step over you at work to get a promotion, they'll do it. They get a chance to make you look bad at church, they'll do it. They just live their life scared. They make excuses. They blame everybody but themselves. They're bullies. Shake. They just shake too much. For instance, Goodfellas. Goodfellas is one of my favorite movies. Goodfellas might actually be my favorite movie. I have to stop and think about that one for a little bit. But in Goodfellas, remember, Henry's character at the end of the movie, he was so paranoid. He was strung out on drugs. He had a bunch of shake to him. He was just scared. And what does he do? He snitches on his guys. He sells Paulie up the river. Sells them out. He sells out Paulie. That's what people with shake do. The Mocs, they don't have any. They don't look when they play like they're afraid of anybody. They take on Samford. Samford in the conference. The number one scoring offense. Stifled. Squashed. The Mocs aren't afraid of anybody. The Mocs are going to play Alabama later this season. They're not afraid of Bama. At all. I mean, I would be, personally. But, maybe that's just me. But the Mocs, they're not afraid of anybody. And it's that level of stability that makes them an easier watch on Saturdays. They're not going to put you on the roller coaster like Tennessee does. You've got the highs, you've got the lows, you've got the ups, you've got the downs. Will they beat Appalachian State? Yes. They need a fumble recovery in overtime. I mean, how much of this are you going to see from Tennessee? I mean, you can't do it every week. It's not doable every week. I'm not saying that the Vols have a little bit of shake to them necessarily, but I think Butch Jones does. Butch Jones is still, and I think he's starting to learn his lesson, and I think that's why Tennessee's playing better. Butch Jones is still coaching like a guy who is afraid of losing. He's got the talent on that team and the capability so that they can come back. But if Butch Jones coached to win instead of coaching to not lose, Tennessee would have won a lot more of these games by a much larger margin. And maybe you don't need a Hail Mary to beat Georgia, who can't run. Oh, they ran against you. But overall, if you look statistically at this season, yeah, that running game's busted. Something's broken. And you can point to the North Carolina game, but the North Carolina game proves how bad North Carolina's run defense is, not how good Georgia is at running this season, because they're not. You take advantage of North Carolina, you can take advantage of Tennessee, but the fact of the matter remains, I mean, they're not running very well this season, and they were able to do that against you in large part because you kept giving them back the football, because early in that game, you punt, 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 punt. Don't take any shots. Don't take any risks. Don't take any chances until your back's against the wall. Can't do that every single week. The Mocs don't do stuff like that. They pretty much just show up and walk through whoever's in front of them. Alejandro Benefield is throwing the ball with more confidence than I've seen a quarterback have, college or pro, this football season. Confident guy. And then they're running the ball incredibly well. I mean, there's nothing that you can really say about the Mocs other than they're pretty amazing. They don't play scared. They don't allow their opponents to dictate the pace. If their opponent is bad, they squash them. If their opponent is good, they compete. They don't play up or down to the level of their opponent. They just play UTC football. And that I would rather watch every single week than trying to figure out if Tennessee is going to come back in a game that they probably didn't need to come back in. Like, you played a couple of teams that can't really run the ball well. You shouldn't have been that far behind in the first place. Is not to be too overcritical of the Vols, because, again, I think that they can beat A&M next week. But I'd like to see Big Brother Tennessee play a little bit more like Little Brother UTC this Saturday. Are they going to lose to the Aggies? You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. I'm going to change it up a little bit here because Leonard Fournette is a guy that I find deeply interesting, possibly because of his predicament, which is that Leonard Fournette came to college looking like he could play in the NFL. Last year, Leonard Fournette ate 3 Auburn players, and we still haven't found him. Leonard Fournette, quite simply, if you had to describe him, is the truth. He is an amazing running back and will be at the NFL level brilliant, absolutely fantastic. Leonard Fournette is one of the best running backs I've ever seen in my life in the short time that I've gotten to watch him. And he's injured this season. And a lot of people have wondered. They wondered last year, and I think they're not really talking about it as much as they should have. That we were having last year, like, should the NCAA have their rule that stops college players from going to the NFL? And the discussion goes back and forth. Well, what if a guy goes to the NFL before he's ready? Doesn't he ruin his career? Doesn't he lose his shot at an education? And all of this stuff. Doesn't he forfeit all of that when he goes to the NFL? Well, not necessarily. And why can't the guy try and enter the NFL draft? And if he doesn't get drafted, why can't he just go back to school? Because players are always going to over-evaluate themselves. You don't play scared. You don't play not believing you're the best player. Right? You're Blake Barnett. You're transferring out of Alabama. The reason why is because you think you could start somewhere. For goodness sakes, we've got 2 Purdue quarterbacks in the SEC. How did we get 2 of those guys? Both of those guys thought I could start somewhere else. And they were backup quarterbacks at Purdue. Purdue. And they thought we could start somewhere else. So guys are always going to evaluate themselves very highly. Guys are going to try and enter the NFL draft before they're ready. Why not make a system that allows them to fail easily and come back? Instead, you have a system that doesn't allow them to go at all, and it punishes the other kind of player, the player that's not over-evaluating themselves. We know that Leonard Fournette is the real deal, and he can't go to the NFL. And now he's injured. And I understand that Leonard Fournette's not really going to lose a ton of money. He's taken out a gigantic insurance policy on himself. Should he be seriously injured or should he drop very far in the NFL draft? Leonard Fournette is going to make a ton of money regardless. But if Leonard Fournette had the opportunity to be the number 1 overall pick going into last season, wouldn't you have done it? And I think a lot of people question, like, what if Leonard Fournette decided, I'm not going to risk injury. I'm going to sit out this season. Not going to risk it. I've got a future paycheck that I can earn. Not going to risk injuring myself for free. And obviously he didn't do that because he's a competitor. I get it. Real competitors compete. Real competitors compete. He's not a guy that's going to sit down and try and save money. He wants to be out there with his team. I'm saying you wouldn't have stopped me from doing it. I'm sitting down. I'm sitting down 24/7. The last thing that I want an NFL scout to remember of me is that time I ate 3 Auburn players. That's what I want. And now, Leonard Fournette's probably not going to start against Florida. And I'm not saying it's costing him anything. Like, it doesn't look like it's affecting his draft stock just yet. But Darius Geis has already picked up the mantle, and he looks really good in LSU's new let's actually play offense. It looks really good. And one could only imagine the buzz that Leonard Fournette would be generating if it were him getting the opportunity to play. And more positions to play like that only helps a guy like him. Helps him to cement that draft status. Gives him a chance to win a Heisman Trophy. All of those things. If Leonard Fournette decides, I'm going to preserve my body, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to get injured for free. It's not exactly the Shaquille O'Neal, I get injured on company time, so I heal on company time. Because Shaquille O'Neal was getting paid money. So that's a little bit more reprehensible. Leonard Fournette's not getting paid any money. Everyone around him is getting paid money. Les Miles was getting paid a ton of money. Les Miles is still getting paid a ton of money. Leonard Fournette isn't, and he didn't get to practice this week, so he's not going to be playing against Florida, and you can't help but wonder, at what point does this actually start to hurt Leonard Fournette? We know he's talented. We know he's skilled. Where does he get drafted? Because you get drafted lower, maybe you end up on a good team. You end up on a good team with a few good running backs already or a good running back, and you're splitting carries with the guy. And maybe you look good doing that, but maybe you don't. It affects future money beyond just the insurance policy that Leonard Fournette took out on himself, which everybody takes out on themselves. It's the only thing like that, where a player can put their body and their mind on the line and basically he gets nothing for it. And if he's injured, he stands a chance of losing money, losing draft status, and he's doing it all the while not being paid anything at all. The NCAA has got to fix something about this. If guys are ready to go to the NFL, they should be allowed to go. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me today, making me just a small part of your day. You know that I appreciate you. Make sure to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and the TuneIn Radio app. Listen like you mean it. Remember, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Stay clutch. I'll see you in 24 hours, but don't you go anywhere. Alex Jones, next.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Fox News Talk 1240.
Wars come and go, but my soldiers stay eternal.
Now you can listen to Hot News Talk Radio anywhere, streaming live at Noogaradio.com. That's Noogaradio.com.
Hot News Talk 1240.
We've got a table here at Delia's, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia's spread